Welcome to Session 6, Cultivating a Healthy Marriage, Part 2. I'm glad you're back this week. Sometimes I wonder, after we first talking about cultivating a healthy marriage in Session 5, if half of you are just going to run screaming from the building and go, oh my gosh, I can't do that! But I'm glad that you're back, because God's got a plan for you, and He's got a plan for your marriage. And I want you to hear it. And I want you so much to trust God. I know words like submission can be really hard to hear, especially if you're in a marriage where you are completely and totally struggling just to look at your husband some days. Can I just share with you, without being disrespectful to my husband, that I so understand. I so completely understand. It's not easy. But that's why we're not called to be submissive in our own strength and with our own level of human love. We can't. We just can't. Ask God to show you that way. And see, that's where that agape love came out. We talked about being filled by that agape love, that we're supposed to use that. And because we submit to Christ for being so, because we're just so thankful and overwhelmed that He would die for us when we were just miserable sinners, that we take that same feeling that overwhelms us with the realization that, oh my gosh, He did that for us. And we take that whole love and we're to pour it out in submission to our husbands. Now, if you read over the session material, you know that we're going to talk about a process today. The process involves submission, respect, forgiveness, intimacy. And that whole process is the process of creating love for ourselves within our marriage. And I know it seems odd, because we as women, we feel love in a certain way. You know, give us the love that we need and we'll be okay, right? But it doesn't work that way in a marriage, unfortunately. I've come to believe that there are certain things that we kind of have to go through before we can actually feel the love that's coming towards us. That often we don't recognize it for what it is, because we're still hung up in a couple of areas. So that's why we talk about this process. I want you to feel love in your marriage. And God wants you to feel love in your marriage. But He can't if you're not, you can't, and He can't help you understand what that love is if you're not willing to submit to His authority and the authority He's placed over you and your husband. And if you're not willing to offer respect to the man that He has placed in authority over you, and if you're not willing to forgive the mistakes that that human has made, and if you're not willing to develop intimacy, either physically or emotionally, then you're not going to be able to feel that love that's coming your way. So this is why the process starts with you, all right? Because we're trying to clear that all out for you so that you can get a good sense of what it is. So, first things first. It starts with you because you are uniquely qualified in this role. His co-workers can't fulfill this purpose for him. His friends can't fulfill this purpose for him. You were chosen out of the billions of women who walk the face of this earth. You were chosen for your husband because you were uniquely created to complete him. And you may not feel that right now, and that's okay. That's okay. Just have to trust God, walk by faith into something you may not see yet, but that's what faith is all about. Right? So walk by faith in this with me. Okay? Take a chance on God. Not on me, but on God. And ask God what He's got planned for you in your marriage. First things first is that submission. You've got to submit to your husbands. You can't have the marriage of your dreams without it. I'm convinced of this. I'm convinced. But submission doesn't necessarily mean what I think the world wants us to think it means. It means things like before we decide to go out and buy a whole new set of furniture for our living room, that we stop and say, hey, I want to get some new furniture. What do you think? And if your husband says no, we can't afford it, or it's not a good time, or I like what we have, you don't shut down, pout, whine. You continue talking, and not to convince him, but to find out what his thinking is, and share your thinking, and then yes, let him ultimately make the decision. Now, I know probably in the past there's been times when your husband has made a decision that you didn't agree with, and it blew up in his face, and you're thinking, well, see, I knew I was right. Submission is about forgetting about that and trying again. Because one of the purposes of submission is to help your husband learn to be the leader he needs to be for the wife he's married to and the family he has. If we keep trying to take over, we're taking that away from him. So that's part of our submission. We need to encourage our husbands to do the leading. And through that, asking permission and allowing them to make decisions. It doesn't mean that we keep ourselves quiet. Doesn't mean we don't say what our opinions are and offer our advice. But it means we allow them to make the ultimate decision. That, in turn, leads us into the respect. Now, we talk, too, a lot that men feel love when they feel respected. And that's one of the biggest conveyors of love to them is respect. And you've probably seen it in your husband where they have felt disrespected, whether from you or somebody else, and they've gotten really, really angry. And we might look at that and go, whatever, and it doesn't have the same impact for us. But for them, it truly is painful in terms of love when they feel disrespected. So we can offer them respect in several ways. And I shared a couple with you in our session notes, but generally it's this. It's understanding that, one, they have a huge responsibility as being the leader of the family. Huge. Whether or not they're taking on that role yet doesn't mean the responsibility is not still there. And chances are they're not taking on that role because they're terrified, right? So that's part of our submission, is to help them learn to take it on in baby steps. And our respect to them is understanding that it's a big role. Those of you who are single parents, you know what I'm talking about. It's a big role to be responsible for all the bills, all the cleaning, all the maintenance, all of everything, right? So we are to respect our husbands for taking on the responsibilities they do. And again, if you're with a husband right now who takes on no responsibilities, don't complain, don't argue, don't nag. Start asking permission, start asking their opinion, and they will soon start taking some things on. Okay, just pray about it. But that's one of the ways we offer our husbands respect. We need to remember too that they are a breadwinner, if not the sole breadwinner in our families. And that has its own issues to deal with. You know, if you have a dual income family, if he loses his job, he is totally blown it for his family. Totally. And men feel more responsibility for their families than women do. Not that we don't feel responsibility, but they feel it deeply. If they cannot provide for their family, it hurts them more than us. I can't explain it. I've just seen it. It devastates them. So we need to remember that they are a breadwinner of the family and offer them respect. Yes, you may work too. And that's not to mean that you shouldn't be respected as well. But we're not talking about making your husband do something for you. We're talking about you and your husband, right? So pray that your husband will open up and see that you need to be respected too. But in the meantime, offer him the example by respecting him. Okay? And then 3, we need to realize that they have job issues too. We may be at home or in a workplace and have a whole bunch of yucky days and have a mess of a day and have a horrible day. And when they come home, we want to just throw it all up over them and let them take it all off our hands and let them deal with it. Okay? So when they come home and they have a really bad day and want to just throw it all up on you and let you take care of it, what do? See, that's offering respect too. So often we want them to do things for us, and then when they want us to do things for them, we kind of say, I don't have time. That's so disrespectful. Really and truly. It's time to stand up for the respect for our husbands. And I'm sorry, ladies. I am so sorry if you at the moment are struggling with your marriage and you're like, respect my husband, forget that. Can I just ask you to step aside for a minute and just trust God? Just trust God in this. And we're submitting to His authority. We're submitting to God and giving Him control over our lives, which includes our marriages. And if His word says, and it does, that we are to respect our husbands, we need to trust that there's a reason for it, even if we can't see it and don't feel it right now. But chances are, if you're having a difficult time in trying to respect your husband, there's probably some bitterness sitting in your house somewhere. And that bitterness is probably dealt with the fact that you have not forgiven your husband for something, or some things, or a major thing, or a bunch of little things that you let build up. It's time to let it go. It is time to let go of whatever hurts your husband has conveyed to you. I have been hurt. It's not easy. My husband has hurt me. But you know what? I can either choose to carry that around and wear myself out and be